Good evening. Bring the regular meeting of the Culpeper Planning Commission to order. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Serio?
Here.
Mr. Fitzsimmons?
Here.
Ms. Taylor?
Here.
Mr. Clemens?
Here.
And Mr. Flanagan.
Here. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, comments and correspondence from visitors and delegations of the audience on items not on the agenda. This does not include the 3 public hearings. Does anyone have anything to bring forward to us? Okay, seeing none, moving on to unfinished business.
No unfinished business?
We'll move right to new business. As I mentioned, there are 3 public hearings this evening. Public hearings allow the commission to gather information from interested citizens on the agenda items. Citizens may speak in reference to each item on the agenda for a time usually limited to 3 minutes. Commissioners and staff may ask questions of anyone attending the hearing. Speakers are asked not to direct questions or comments to each other. Speakers are not allowed additional time for rebuttal. This is a hearing, not a debate. Questions may be directed to commissioners and community development staff during regular office hours.
Mr. Pancotti is going to be presenting this case.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. I'm Louis Pancotti, and I will be presenting the staff report for rezoning case 4521, 2024, and conditional use permit case 4522, 2024. The first request is a rezoning of parcel 41A1-4-Q-7 from Central Commercial C2 to General Commercial C3. Addresses for this property are 21 Southeast Street and 215 through 219 East Culpeper Street. The owner is M. Caroline Clark and the applicant is Paul Warmack. The applicant is also requesting a conditional use permit to allow the use of commercial recreation and entertainment. The use of commercial recreation and entertainment is not a use permitted by right or by conditional use in the C2 zoning district. It is permitted by conditional use permit in the C3 zoning district. The applicant did provide proffers that will exclude the uses of motor vehicle and trailer sales and service, motor vehicle garage, automotive detailing, and car wash on the property, even though they are usually permitted within the C3 zoning district. Because the applicant is proffering out these vehicle-related uses, the only other new uses that would be permitted that are not permitted at all under C2 would be office park and upholstery shop. The uses of cabinet furniture making and repair, restaurant carryout, and restaurant fast food would be permitted by right, where they were permitted only by CUP and C2. As you can see here, the surrounding zoning district is primarily C2. The ordinance states that the C2 district covers that portion of the community intended for the conduct of centralized general businesses which requires direct and frequent access and is characterized by constant heavy traffic, noise and congestion of people and passenger vehicles, and by large office buildings and retail establishments. The C3 district is similar in that it covers the portion of the community intended for the conduct of general business, to which the public requires direct and frequent access, and is characterized by constant heavy traffic and noise of the congestion of people and passenger vehicles. The district is located mostly on primary arteries and outside of the central business district. However, as previously stated, the applicant is proffering out a lot of those vehicle-related uses, and as the new draft ordinance currently stands, this recreational use would be permitted by right on this property once it is adopted, if it is in its final form. The parcel is located within the central business and town center character area, and the business investment area is designated in the comprehensive plan. Both the C2 and C3 zoning districts are recommended in the future land use map. The proposal would promote the use of the existing structure, present employment opportunities, and provide a diversity of businesses. This area is also a focus area designated in the downtown area plan. This plan identifies this site for potential single redevelopment opportunity featuring commercial on the ground floor and residential lofts or offices on the upper stories. For the conditional use permit, the applicant describes the business as an entertainment that includes classic retro arcade games, pinball machines, modern games, and redemption games coupled with food, snacks, sodas, and local craft beer. Patrons will pay $15 entry fee to play all games, and a party room can be booked for events on the weekends. This use best aligns with the ordinance's definition of commercial recreation and entertainment, and as mentioned before, this use is only permitted by CUP and the C3 zoning district. So the ordinance does allow town council to approve the CUP following a recommendation from the planning commission upon finding that the use will not adversely affect the health, safety of persons residing or working in the neighborhood of the proposed use, that the use will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in the neighborhood, that the use will be in harmony with the goals, policies, and future land use map in the comprehensive plan, and number 4 there doesn't apply since this property is not within the watershed protection district. Town council can also designate conditions that it deems necessary to carry out the intent of the ordinance. Currently, this CUP is being proposed with only one condition, that the allowable hours of operation on Sunday through Thursday will be 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., and on Friday and Saturday, the allowable hours of operations will be 9 a.m. to midnight. So as far as order goes, the planning commission should hold the public hearing on the rezoning and CUP separately. The hearing and action on the rezoning should go first because the conditional use permit is reliant on that rezoning. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. I believe the applicant is also here in case you have any questions for them.
Just to clarify, I think you can hold one public hearing in terms of comment on both items, but you'll need to vote on the 2 items separately with the vote on the rezoning first and then on the conditional use permit.
Oh, so the rezoning doesn't have to be voted on the council before we make a second recommendation?
Correct.
Thank you for the clarification.
I have a question. Is there going to be any exterior changes to the building?
Not that are proposed. There may be a new sign, I would assume, but anything proposed as part of this application, there has not been.
The reason I ask, it's in the historic district, and the ARB would have to,
Yes, anything other than a sign or paint that matches our booklet would have to go to the ARB.
thank you.
Yes.
There are proposed hours of operation, but those are not proffered, right?
Those would be conditions, not necessarily proffers. For the conditional use permit, the council does have the ability to impose a condition that they would be tied to it. It is enforceable by the zoning administrator.
So they would have to adhere to the
Yes.
the hours of operation as advertised here.
Mm-hmm. And to change them, they'd have to come back
Yep.
for this through the same process to amend them.
Very good, thanks.
Heidi, if they were going to add residential apartments above, would there be additional action required by the planning commission or council?
As long as it's a permitted use in the zoning ordinance, there would not be.
They've not excluded that from their application.
They have not.
They have not.
No.
It's within the parking overlay, right?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Mr. Hopewell. Would this use be permitted under the proposed MX downtown use?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have a sense, if it were to be converted to apartment, residential use, what would the maximum density be in that building? I mean, can you do that off the top of your head, or?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I can certainly look into that for you.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't residential only on the second and higher?
Yes.
It couldn't be on the first floor anyway.
Yes.
And it's a 3-story building?
I believe it's
Or two.
Oh, it is 3, yes.
No, it's
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sorry?
It's 2 stories.
Huh. Okay.
questions from staff? We'll move to the public hearing of REZ 4521, 2024 for the conditional use permit and the rezoning. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to the public hearing? Public hearing is open. If so, please come forward, state your name and your address.
Should I speak or?
If you wish to, yeah.
want to,
this is
yeah.
your chance.
How y'all doing? I'm the one that's proposing the space at 201 Southeast Street. And I just want to clarify, I know there's been some issues in the past, you know, police being called to this location. One of the reasons why, Mrs. Graham, and she approached me, the business that I'm starting is a family entertainment center. You know, there's an admission fee to get in. There's going to be no loitering, people coming in. You know, it's not a bar. It is we are going to be a restaurant / game room, but it's mostly for doing birthday parties for kids and stuff on the weekends. You know, Saturday and Sunday. You know, during the weekdays we open a little bit later, stay open until about 9 o'clock at night. The weekends, the reason why I wanted just to go a little bit later is because I know the breweries close at 10 o'clock, and I just wanted to get some of those people, you know, to come. But we wouldn't. My proposed hours probably close around 11 because I know the town, you know, it's not a real late night town. I've lived here for 20 years. I just put 12 just in case because, you know, if we have like a pinball tournament or something like that, you know, that's something that I don't want to break the law. You know what I mean? I want to make sure, you know, the hours we stay open and close when we're supposed to. But anyways, it is a family entertainment. I mean, this is not something where it's a bar or playing loud music or anything like that. Just want y'all to know that. Do you have any questions?
Mr. Fitzsimmons?
Will you, so you say it's not a bar, do you anticipate selling alcoholic beverages?
Okay, just craft beer and light wine. I'm not pursuing a liquor license.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we're trying to keep it family friendly. I mean, I'm 55 years old. I'm not a partier. You know, it's mostly for games. There's an admission fee, so anybody that walks through the door has to pay $15 to come in. You know, there's no exceptions. So, I mean, that will deter a lot of, you know, because I know what happened at the pier. You know, I know what happened at some of these other places, and that's not, you know, that's not something that we want to promote. And yeah.
And would there be skill games?
No. So I did say redemption in my business proposal, and I just want to know redemption means like plush cranes, you know, things like that, but there'll be very few. Most of it's like retro arcade games, pinball machines, skee ball, you know, air hockey, foosball, things like that. So no gambling of any kind. Absolutely.
But you will have asteroids.
Absolutely. And Miss Pac-Man. Pac-Man and Donkey Kong.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you very much.
Or sorry, I have one other question. What is your anticipated opening?
When?
Yeah.
I'd like to open by May 1st. It may be closer to middle of May, early June, but that's what I'm in there trying to, you know, paint, do some other things. So yeah, take a little. Oh yeah, like
Yeah, sure. Right. Right. Okay.
And I want y'all to know too, I'm on the board of directors of the Brandy Station Foundation. I don't know if that means anything. I head the nominating committee there. And we also do the ghost tours in town with Paige Reed. We don't make any money. All the money goes back into tourism. We probably do probably about 6 of those a year. So we are very involved with the town. So just let y'all know that.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Oh, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak at the public hearing for this? Public hearing is closed. All right, folks, here's the fun part.
Well, I just have one more question for Mr. Hopewell. I guess I'm confused by a map of C2, one property C3, and this sort of flux period. the use as prescribed, I'm a little confused why the use as defined by the applicant wouldn't fit in C2 in the first place. And so I'm trying to figure out, is there a way to fix this without opening a big can?
The difficulty with the way the current ordinance is written is that the commercial recreation description applies across the board to all commercial recreation. So essentially, a minor league baseball stadium is in the same category as this arcade that's being proposed. And so that's why in the current ordinance it's written where it requires a conditional use permit, because it wasn't factoring in the scope and scale. That's one of the things we're looking to address in the update, as far as looking at the scale of things. And so something on the scale of this would be allowed by right, because its impact is not all that much different than other commercial, potential restaurant uses in the vicinity. I recognize the concern about the C3 in a sea of C2. The difference here is that what the property owner has proffered out are a lot of those different uses that essentially are that upzoning to C3, and really trying to restrict it primarily to this one use that's not permitted and on a scope and scale that essentially is appropriate within this.
So looking at the map that's on the monitor now, of the area that's in pink, how much of that translates to MX in the new zoning?
The majority of what's on there in pink is proposed to be rezoned to MX.
So we should not expect an influx of applications of property owners trying to get to C3 before that change happens.
I wouldn't anticipate it.
So that we should reasonably consider this a one-off.
I would, and again, the particular use that's being proposed is not one that we've traditionally seen here. There are exceptions right in the rules as far as uses. But when you look at what's being proposed from a character perspective, I think it certainly fits with the other uses that we've seen in the downtown.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Hopewell, I think I understand Mr. Clement's concern is that previous applications, there was a C2 and a C of C3. And here we are on the flip side, kind of creating what could be a bit of a mess. But the proffers do seem to eliminate anything that's of serious harm or damage to the downtown. Mr. Fitzsimmons?
Mr. Hopewell, forgive me if I'm redundant with Mr. Clements. It's anticipated that this general area will become MX under the updated zoning statute, and gaming on this scale would be accommodated within that. So this is kind of a transitional. This will be automatic if and when that statute ever is approved. Then this will be overtaken. The rezoning what we're considering today will be overtaken. And can't think of the right word, but invalidated in favor of the MX zoning. Okay, so it's really a transitional action. Under current zoning as C2, I know the fast food and carryout are conditional, are only allowed under CUP, but it can be operated by right as a restaurant. Is that correct?
Correct.
So we have a letter here that expresses concern about the operation of the premises as a restaurant, but that operation is already by right, so whoever occupies the building could run it as a restaurant. And our action today is irrelevant to its potential operation as a restaurant.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
If I may just make one statement, just to be clear, the proposed zoning really should not have any bearing on the commission's decision, because that has not been adopted yet. It's simply a consideration. It was more provided as an informational purpose, but ultimately this needs to be decided, without factoring that into consideration of what may be in the future, because ultimately that may change from what it is. when you look at what's being proposed, it is a change from C2 to C3. Many, or really almost all of the more intense C3 uses have been proffered out
Right.
in this instance, though.
All right, well, with that in mind, Mr. Chairman, so let's just walk through the timeline of fixing C2. So, I mean, if we wanted to include amusement as defined here in C2, we're talking about work session, public hearing, ordinance change?
If we're talking about amending the existing C2, would need to be initiated. We would then have to have a public hearing before the planning commission and then a public hearing before town council.
Now, can we initiate, or does the council have to initiate and send back to us?
The planning commission does have the ability to initiate zoning amendments, zoning text amendments.
Okay,
Lose a month,
right.
which would still be April.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I do have a question. If we do rezone to the new way, the properties that we have here, will they remain on that property?
Yes.
Good.
Question as well. Okay.
Is there a motion to,
Just to clarify, we've got to do two motions, right? One for the rezoning first, and then we discuss the CUP, because I do have a question as it relates to that. but-
right, we have to do the rezoning and then the CUP.
Mr. Chairman, I move the recommendation for the rezoning.
Is there a second?
To be clear, there is no recommendation.
Oh, apologize, I'm so used, yes, I will do it properly then. I move the rezoning for case 4521-2024.
To recommend approval.
To
town
recommend
council.
approval to the town council, usually on the other end of it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Just
Any
for discussion
discussion?
before, yeah.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I think that the group speaks with one voice, which is totally fine. I think that it'd be preferable just to fix C2. But if the group is in favor of this, it will be unanimous.
As to what?
I mean, to me, from a technical standpoint, I think that there's more value in fixing C2 and adding amusements than simply spot zoning a property and changing the zoning for one use. But if this is a 4-0, it will be 5-0 vote. I believe that the commission speaks with one voice. I'm not opposed to the will of the rest of the group.
The only problem with that is this can be done quickly. Changing
Yeah.
is gonna take a lot longer.
I see, is it okay to, may I? I see your point, but it seems to me the exposure is very, very narrow. The statute's gonna go through within a year or so, right? In which case C3 will be swept aside in favor of MX. And, I mean, somebody's gonna come in and open a furniture shop in that time, oh dear. You know, I just,
Right.
I just don't see a lot of risk, and, you know, the gentleman has a business interest, and
No, I don't think the risk is inherent with this property.
Yeah.
The risk is inherent with spot zoning properties, or changing zoning, one piece at a time. When the
Right.
fix is
Yeah.
that this
No,
use
no,
should
I
already be
completely
permitted.
agree, and
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
technically, I think you're exactly right, but it just seems like the time frame, unless we're completely wrong about the pace at which the zoning statute is gonna be approved, which we could be given the history, recent history.
Well, yeah, it would be fine,
But,
the applicant, yeah.
it just doesn't seem like there's room for much agitation in that direction, you know, by other applicants.
Agreed.
So, and again, there's a business interest, and, you know, small businesses are sensitive to minor disruptions.
Your discussion has led to my question of staff. Are there other applications like this in the pipeline?
Not that we're aware of.
Any further discussion? Are we ready for a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Signify aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Rezoning passes 5-0. Now we will address the issue of the conditional use permit.
Is this a recommendation or is this an action?
This is again a recommendation to town council.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend approval of the conditional use permit as applied for.
Second. For the conditional use permit.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
I just had a quick question. I guess, so it's my understanding this is for the entirety of this building, 201, 215, 217, and 219, right? The whole, as it goes down Culpeper Street. I can't recall where the entrances all are on the Culpeper Street side, or if there are any. My concern with this has always been the amount of people coming in and out of the door on the Southeast Street side, where the building pretty much sits almost on the road on the Southeast Street side, with kids and things like that, hours open late. You know, I've driven through there at night, and it's, you know, there's a lot of times people literally in the road. I think the stop sign on the previous block has helped with traffic flow a lot, but I'm just wondering, are there doorways on the sides, and will people be encouraged to enter from the side, or is all the traffic going to be coming in and out of the front?
If the applicant would
Does
like
anybody,
to come and address that?
whoever,
It's the front.
okay, there's no side?
Oh, there's what?
There's a sidewalk.
Oh, yeah, well, there's a
Well, I know
sidewalk.
there is a sidewalk, I understand that, I just didn't know if,
Yeah, but 201 Southeast Street, my business is in front, it's not on the side. There's no other door, it's just there's a fire exit, obviously. but,
Right,
you know,
okay.
The fire exit actually is out on the sidewalk as well, on the side of the building, but it's in the front, it's the sidewalk.
Okay.
There is a parking lot directly across the street.
right, yeah, I understand that, I was just wondering, you know, it's always been just a interesting problem there, but, that was the only thing when we were referring to public welfare. The other thing, just a little cleanup, when in the report, when we refer to water quality in Lake Pelham, we need to change it to Lake Culpeper, if we could.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. The discussion is completed. All in favor of the conditional use permit being moved to town council?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye?
Aye.
All opposed? Very good, thank you. Public hearing, conditional use permit, CUP 4495, 2023.
All right, I will now be presenting the staff report for conditional use permit, case number 4495, 2023. This is a request by Jason and Reagan Ketterer for a conditional use permit to convert the existing structure into an accessory dwelling unit located at 509 Southeast Street. The tax map number is 41A2-1T1-1, and the property is located at the corner of Southeast Street and East Chandler Street and is zoned C2, or R2, excuse me. The applicant would like to convert the second story of the existing 792 square foot accessory building into a dwelling unit. The first floor will remain a garage, and but the use of accessory dwelling unit is only permitted by CUP. The existing structure is located behind the primary dwelling and is about 7.5 feet from the rear property line adjacent to the railroad tracks. The floor plan here shows an open room, uses a bedroom, a kitchen, and a bathroom. And again, this is the upstairs. The downstairs portion will remain a garage for storage and vehicles. The ordinance contains 8 specific requirements that accessory dwelling units must meet. The materials provided with the application show that all these requirements are met. I won't go through these one by one, but if you have any questions regarding any of them, I'd be happy to go into a little more detail. The comprehensive plan designates the future land use for this property as low-density residential. This designation calls for single-family detached homes at densities of up to 4 units per acre. It is also located in the traditional neighborhood character area. This character area encourages a mix of housing types, but emphasizes the importance of maintaining a compatible style of architecture and spatial relationships. The comprehensive plan also recommends the development of accessory dwelling units in traditional and suburban neighborhoods to provide options for extended family or rental units within these neighborhoods. As mentioned in my previous presentation, the ordinance does grant town council the authority to approve of a conditional use permit following the recommendation of a planning commission upon the findings of these 4 requirements. Skipped ahead there. And the CUP is being proposed with the conditions shown here that correspond with the ordinance requirements. I showed them on my previous slides for accessory dwelling units. Again, I'd be happy to go into any of those in more detail if you would like. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have for staff.
I believe we went over this rather extensively in our work session. Are any additional questions?
No, I think it's worth noting, though, as you just did, that we've discussed each of these applications at some length in the last work session, so this is not our first bite at the apple. This is not our first examination.
Yeah, there were quite a few bits of history brought up on this particular case. That quite a few questions were asked about the offsets, the existence of the existing electric utility meter, and the plans and circumstances that have caused this to come to us. Are there any questions for staff? If not, then we will open the public hearing
Thank you.
for CUP 4495-2023. Public hearing is open. Is there anyone who would like to come forward and discuss this with the Planning Commission? Please state your name and address, please.
It's Reagan Ketterer and 509 Southeast Street.
Thank you.
I'm not sure how this goes, so maybe if you just have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Are you the applicant?
I am.
Tell us why you want it.
So that's a good start. So when we purchased this house nearly 2 years ago, so it was already a bedroom and a bathroom when we bought it. So when we decided to make it an Airbnb, we didn't think we were changing anything. So a lot of this was a surprise to us. But yeah, we just wanted to make it a little suite to rent it out to couples and 2-person max, 1 vehicle. We have off-street parking. But yeah, that's it. Just a simple little side hustle, I guess you could call it.
Okay. Well, one question that I brought up at the work session, which is still somewhat of a concern to me, there's like a structure that's like a heavy-duty mailbox between the carriage house and the railroad tracks that seems to block you backing out of the driveway.
That piece right here.
Oh, it's just a little garden shed.
You can see over the top of it.
Oh, yeah, you can see past it. You can see that driveway better than the main driveway.
Okay. That was my only concern, backing onto Chandler Street up against the tracks.
We actually cut a lot of brush away 2 months ago because of that.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions for the applicant? Thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this conditional use permit? Public hearing is closed. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I move we forward this to town council with recommendation for approval.
Okay, there is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Being none? All right, I just had a brain fart. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Same sign. The motion passes 5-0 for the conditional use permit, 4495, 2023. Thank you. We'll move to public hearing, conditional use permit, CUP 4500, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, you're doing the heavy lifting.
You know, every now and then. Continuing the theme of conditional use permits, this is a, what's that?
Don't hurt yourself.
I know. I have a hard act to follow. This is request CUP 4500-2023. It's a conditional use permit for request for a comprehensive sign plan. The property is located at 891 Willis Lane. It's the former Pancho Villa restaurant, and it's an existing sign that's there. The current use is vacant. The property is being renovated for Wellspring to come in there, and so the applicant has requested to retain the existing sign that's in existence on the property. So the sign is currently, it was non-conforming. It was built according to the standards in place of the town in the early 1980s. However, the ordinance changed subsequent to that. The sign was a legal non-conforming one. However, when the property sustained a fire in February of 2022, the sign essentially had 2 years to be representative of a business in operation at that site, otherwise it would lose its non-conforming status. So that date passed as of February 3rd of this year. So the applicant did submit prior to that this request for the comprehensive use permit for the conditional use permit for the comprehensive sign plan to allow it to the existing sign to remain at a height above what is currently permitted. So we're delaying any sort of enforcement action until the resolution of this application. So the council, as you've seen this previously, and I want to run through quickly, but there are 4 considerations taken into place when town council is looking at a conditional use permit. The first is that the use will not adversely affect the health or safety of persons residing or working in the neighborhood of the proposed use. In this instance, because it's an existing sign, I think we'd be hard pressed to find that it would adversely affect the health or safety. The second is that the use will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood. Again, with it being an existing sign, I think it would be hard to argue that. The third is that the use will be in harmony with the goals, policies, and future land use map in the comprehensive plan. I'll touch on that in a moment. And then the fourth is related to the water quality. And the code still has Lake Pelham, which is why we have it in here. We haven't updated it, but in reference to Lake Culpeper. So again, with it being an existing sign, there's no anticipated adverse impact on the water supply. Looking at the comprehensive plan, there are 2 points of potential conflict. This falls within 2 of the character districts within the town. The first is the mixed-use business character, which specifically identifies that monument-style signs are the signs that should be utilized in the town and in these districts in particular. This is a pole-mounted sign as opposed to a monument-style sign. The second is that it also falls within the gateways and corridors character area. And that has identified that over time the town should look to remove billboards. And this sign is indicative of a billboard type sign per the definition. So those are our 2 characteristics. You know, there is also language within the economic development section that talks to supporting infill development, redevelopment of properties, which this certainly would also need to be considered in this instance where we did have a prior use that burned and now a new tenant that's wishing to locate in this property. So again, here is the sign as it exists today. The top left corner is the proposed rendering of what the sign would look like. This is the view from the overpass over 29. As you can see, the sign is elevated so that it is visible from that particular road. If the commission wishes to recommend approval of this, staff does have some potential conditions for consideration. The first is that all signs other than the existing ground-mounted pole sign shall conform with the town code requirements related to signage. So essentially stating that the conditional use permit is only applicable to this particular sign and that all other signs on site will meet current town code requirements. the existing ground-mounted pole sign may deviate from the town code signage requirements relative to its height only. So again, no changes in terms of illumination or things of that nature. And the third is that no modification to the ground-mounted pole sign structure and sign other than a refacing of the existing sign or removal of the sign and structure is permitted, essentially, so that it's not coming back in the future, short of it potentially coming down. So the options are for the commission to recommend this to town council, either for approval or for denial. Be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have, and the applicant is here as well to speak during the public hearing portion.
Mr. Hopewell, in the photograph here on, it looks like there are also 2 other pole-mounted signs in the area for the regional hotels. And so this is just, so are they non-conforming at this point?
They are legal non-conforming, again, because they are reflective of businesses that have been in operation, and those operations have not ever ceased for a period exceeding 2 years. They are legal non-conforming signs.
And what would be the trigger for those signs to have to be removed?
Essentially, if the businesses that they were representing were to cease operations for a period of more than 2 years.
So if they were to change the size of the building or want to do something different and make improvements to their site, that would not trigger?
That would not trigger the need for the sign to be removed.
So probably the only thing that can trigger the non-conforming signs to be removed is for them to not be in use for 2 years.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff?
Mr. Director, just judging from the photo, it's not a very, it's a very small photo, but it looks like the pole needs some maintenance, and the condition here of no modification of pole mount would not preclude the owner from
No, maintenance
making
would
it look
be,
nice.
correct. Maintenance would certainly be permitted. Again, we would not want to create a safety concern.
It looks like it's a bit of an eyesore now, so it needs a little sprucing up. Anyway, but, okay.
Mr. Hopewell, was there also a condition about 5-year renewals?
That was not proposed in there.
Okay. That must have been on something else. Any other questions of staff before we open the public hearing? Hey, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I'm ready to hear from
Okay.
the
I'm going to open the
applicant.
public hearing for conditional use permit, CUP 4500, 2023. State your name and address, sir.
Joe Daniel, 2166 December Court,
Thank you.
Culpeper, Virginia. This sign, we built this building in 83 or 84. I believe that's right. And it was built as a Golden Corral,
I remember.
and it operated as a Golden Corral for, 15, 20 years. And most recent operator was Pancho Villas. And Pancho's burned February 2nd, 2022. And that brings us to February 2nd, 2024. Well, when it burned, he didn't want to go back and operate the business. So I fooled around. When I say I fooled around, I'm looking for a tenant. And we didn't get one. And finally, I don't know, somewhere along the line, we learned about this sign thing. And even without a tenant, I said, heck with it, we'll go ahead and try to get an occupancy permit if I got an occupancy permit by 2/2/24, none of this discussion would be happening.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, so we started construction on it, and one thing led to another. And then somewhere along the way in December, Wellspring came along, and I have Charity Wolf here with me. Charity is she's the head administrator at Wellspring. And anyway, we negotiated a deal with them to rent it. and they're going to be rented. But, as you know, every tenant has a different dance. So, we gotta go in, and a lot of the construction that we've already done, we gotta redo. Because it's a big difference between a restaurant and a doctor's office. And we've begun that construction, but it's February 2nd is just not possible to get an occupancy permit. So that's how we got into this issue with the sign. So what we like to do in Wellspring wants to use the sign, right? Everybody here knows Wellspring. They have operations at the old.
We do. Our intention is to move our family practice clinic from across on the hospital campus to this location. So that is our plan tentatively to move in by July 1st of this summer. And so obviously we love the sign because it's right there. It's right on the town, right on the town limit, to where it's not, I mean, obviously it's ugly now, but our intention, we've already approached Express Copy to get it all fixed up nicely as soon as we can get an approval to have it happen. But as far as growth and expansion, I mean, we need more space, and this was the perfect opportunity to do it. And as far as serving Culpeper, we're doing about 50,000 patient visits a year, and we have a panel of about 25,000 patients. So we need space, and we need them to know where we're at.
I have one question. How much of your business is pop-in? Like someone is driving down the road and they
Oh, actually, Creativity Drive, a lot, because it's mostly walk-in, but on the hospital campus, people walk into the ER, it's a 4 to 6 hour wait, they're coming across the street to us. So we usually keep one provider who's just free for same-day visits. So we actually do have a lot of same-day walk-in on this, when I say this side of town.
So this campus, let's just say this campus.
This has a lot of potential to have a lot of walk-in
Walk-in.
after hours, possibly. We're
Okay.
not there yet, but
Okay, thank you.
because it is kind of needed on this side too.
So someone can theoretically be driving down 29, see the sign, and realize this is somewhere they need to stop.
Actually, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Daniel, I was here when they built the bypass and they got rid of the light. Did the sign arrive because of the bypass, or was it already there?
I don't remember. I don't remember. When was the bypass built? The bypass was built in the early 60s, late 60s.
I'm sorry, the cloverleaf.
The cloverleaf was built, they had so many accidents there that,
Right.
that the highway department, but do you remember when that was built?
I don't
And I
remember.
don't remember whether it was, I believe that cloverleaf was built in the late 70s. So when we built the restaurant, I mean, if you hadn't had the sign, it would have been virtually blank.
Basically, what I'm alluding to is when the overpass created in that giant wall, I went there when I was early in my career, I went there with Oliver and John Smith, and we had lunch, and then there's this huge wall that was going to be there, and I'm trying to remember if the sign was a panacea to Golden Corral so people could see them.
I don't remember.
Neither
And
do
of
I.
course, the sign, it looks like it's tall, but the reality of it is the sign above the highway right there is, 10 feet, 12 feet?
When you're on the bridge,
When you're on the bridge,
Yeah.
when you're on the overpass. So it looks like it's tall. However, when you're on the bridge, it's probably 10 feet tall.
Actually, if you don't have the pole, you can't see the sign.
No.
If it's on the ground, you can't see it.
No, you couldn't see it. And I think, is Wellspring gonna put a sign on Willis Drive?
Our intention wasn't. It was just to do the sign on a building.
But if they put up a sign, it's gonna be at the ground level, and it'll be in compliance with whatever the town ordinances are at this time.
We should just have that conversation to make sure, because this would be the ground-mounted sign currently. There would not be the
There
opportunity
wouldn't
for
be-
another one.
We wouldn't be putting a monument sign like on
Okay.
the corner or anything. The only thing that we've submitted for was a sign just on the building,
Mm-hmm.
and then this.
Would anybody else like to speak at the public hearing? Are there any other questions for the applicant? Public hearing is closed. Thank you both very much.
Let me see if I can get my stick. Without falling down. It's old legs have given out on me.
I know the feeling.
I see John got his cane with him.
Yep.
Okay, the public hearing's been closed. Conditional use permit, CUP 4500 2023. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion, we forward to town council with our recommendation for approval.
Second. Second. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I just want to note for the record that the page 48 of the comprehensive plan says that we have a goal of removing over time billboards in the gateway. I find it hard to believe that signs like this one weren't specifically in the minds of the authors of that version of the comprehensive plan when that discussion came up.
But as I think Mr. Hopewell has already indicated, they're allowed to be non-conforming as long as conditional use permits are granted and/or they're not used for more than 2 years. And then even then, they're allowed to be reused under a conditional use permit.
Isn't the non-conforming only the pole? I mean, the size of the sign is fine, same size as UVA has at the north end of town.
It's the height of the sign.
Well, okay, yeah, well, that's the pole.
Right, but yeah, the height at which that is.
And I think the only reason this one needs that pole is because of the highway. I mean, you can't put it on the ground, you won't see it.
Especially with the overpass.
Yeah, you're up high with the highway, yeah, absolutely.
I feel like that sign is distinct from the category. I know what you're saying, and I'm sure you're right, but it's not. Billboards have a different kind of feel to them if they're along the side of the road. They trash up the general appearance. And this
That
is
doesn't look bad.
This is kind of a one-off thing, and it's a very specific representation. It's not, I don't know, doesn't. Whatever the original intent was from our perspective here today, it doesn't seem, particularly given that there are other signs like that in the vicinity. My only question is the one that typically you raise, James, which is, do we expose ourselves to some kind of if we make a one-off decision, are we in some way setting a precedent that could be a work to the town's disadvantage? And right now I'm not seeing it because it's a special set of circumstances. The base for the decision, there's a lot of circumstantial delay, which is recorded and just recently been recounted. Which makes it more reasonable than it might otherwise be to make such a request. So I feel like the exposure is little to none.
If I could add to that, I kind of agree with James, and I think if you remember last time, I was not real thrilled with the sign. But I've since, driven out there a couple times and from a couple different angles. It's not as glaring and offensive as I seem to think from the photos. The other thing too, it's a little bit different because the ownership hasn't changed. There was work going on in earnest to continue to use this location, and we're looking at 2 weeks window here of a sort of a glitch or a communication issue. So I don't feel like denying this application is appropriate.
Unless there's some real harm being done, and this is our opportunity to do it.
Right.
And I don't see any harm being done.
And we do have,
all the reasons you say, it's almost like a technicality to.
well, I mean, you do have to try to keep everybody within the same the same rule, but like I'm saying, it's same owner, there was work being done. It's not like it's a building that sat or changed hands, or somebody intended to do something and never did, and here we are 3-4 years later. This is a different circumstance, and we do, for what, good or bad, have other signs of similar height looming. So, anyway.
Well, I agree with you, the folks on the panel. If it was the only one, I'd say, hey, we're trying to get rid of these, and this is the last one, but there are other offenders or non-conforming signs in the general vicinity, looking very much like so many other places in USA. And once you get into I think the ground-mounted signs are good. I think they're important. But as we get further in town, they're more important than being seen from the highway. Any other discussion?
I just want to note for the record that I agree with both Mr. Fitzsimmons and Ms. Taylor that these are definitely unique circumstances. It does sort of give you that lend to that sort of glitch, or sort of, we definitely don't want to have a situation where an applicant seems to be caught in a paperwork or some kind of timing glitch.
That's the entire agenda, Mr. Clements. Every one of these is a glitch or somebody's been caught up.
That's right.
Exactly. We are the exception committee. This is what we do.
Yeah.
That's right.
With that being said, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations,
Thank you.
passed 5-0.
Everybody's good tonight.
All right, moving on to other business.
No other business,
Follow-up items?
no follow-up items.
Planning director updates.
We are diligently looking to fill Mr. Cruz's position. I believe we should hopefully have it squared away this week to have that filled.
Great.
You've interviewed, do you mean you're ready to hire?
We're working through the hiring process right now.
Yeah, that, for some reason it popped up on my LinkedIn page the other day. I said, oh,
It didn't pop up on mine.
I must be a more attractive candidate.
More than likely. All right, commission member discussion.
Nothing.
Mr. Fitzsimmons?
No, thank you very much.
Mr. Clements?
So should we expect a work session next week?
I think so. I now that the commission's had a little bit more time to digest what we've put out of the code update, we can certainly have a conversation about that, drill a little bit deeper than that initial introduction we did last month.
Taylor?
I don't think I have anything, but come out and see Andrew, discuss the new zoning ordinance that we're working on at the neighborhood watch meeting in a couple days. We could be in the audience and heckle him a little bit.
Well, again, I think it'll be less than what we discussed here. It's more just trying to direct folks to take a look at what we've got available on the website, take a look at their individual properties, and let us know if they've got any concerns about that. But just starting to get the word out about that.
At the Baptist church or
At the police station.
police station?
Yeah, just
When?
would like people, if they want a chance to hear it about it, to,
Where do you see those announcements?
it's the,
I've got the wrong feed.
it's through the Culpeper Police Department, their bi-monthly combined neighborhood watch meetings, so it'll be on Thursday at 7.
Yeah, no, ours is always over the Baptist church. Okay.
That's all I got.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.